Hi everyone, and welcome to our little tutorial on how to perform a demo for our equipment here at Ricoh. So I'm going to take you through some of the steps on how you're going to be evaluated when performing a demo, and this is set as the benchmark for what we expect you to do in front of your customers. So please follow along, take notes, and please apply as you can, not only for internal evaluations, but also for when you are performing for a customer. So when we are looking at doing a demo, the number one rule is always tying it back to the customer. So we're expecting you throughout your demo to be constantly checking in with your customer. So as you're presenting certain features and advantages and value back to your customer, you always want to get their buy-in. You also want to get the buy-in at the beginning of the presentation as well as at the end. So again, number one, always get your customers buy-in as you go through the product demo to make sure that they're following you, to make sure that they understand what's going on, and to make sure that what you're telling them, what you're showing them is actually going to be of value to them, so that when you get to the close and when you get to the proposal and when you are presenting things and hoping that they'll sign your contract, they'll actually do it because they've bought in the whole way through. So once your customer arrives here at the Ricoh demo room, what you're going to do, of course, first and foremost is introductions. Sometimes you may have someone there that you haven't met before, or you may have someone with you from the Ricoh side that they haven't met before. So make sure you're doing introductions. Before you get into the equipment, one of the things that should be common sense but often isn't is making sure that your customer is comfortable. Have they been driving in for an hour and a half? Did they come from downtown sitting in traffic? You want to ensure that your customer is always comfortable. Show them where the washrooms are, or explain where the washrooms are. Make sure that they've got something to drink, if they're thirsty, that sort of thing, because if they have to go to the washroom the whole time, or if they're uncomfortable, they're not going to be listening to what you have to say. It's common sense, but it's something that many reps overlook. The next thing that you want to do is go through an agenda. Many reps will choose to have something on paper, some will choose to have an easel beside the machine, or you may choose to have a screen with you where you've got a PowerPoint presentation. Any of these are fine, but you want to make sure that you've got a written agenda so that the customer knows about how long you're going to take and what they're going to be covering today. So if I have a customer in front of me, I'm going to say, "Hi, Mr. Customer, I'm so excited that you're here. You know, I've got some water here on the table. Please feel free to grab that as we go through. The washrooms are just down the hall. If you need to use those before we get started, let's take care of that. Now we're going to take you through the agenda. We should be here for about 25 minutes or so, Mr. Customer, at which time we're going to go through the product overview. We're going to address your needs, some of the current business challenges. We're going to go over why Ricoh. We're going to talk about the model itself, some of the features within it, as well as some of the things that it has. We'll see how those relate back to your business challenges, and then we'll show you some of the tasks this machine can perform that's going to take care of what you're doing. And if after that, Mr. Customer, you are still content with what we've shown you, or you feel that it's met all your needs, is there any reason why we can't move forward today with getting this equipment to your business? So you see how I've gone through a quick agenda. It took about 30 seconds. It's either going to be written on a screen that you have or in a hard copy if you've got that with you. But at the end of going through the agenda, you always want to make sure that you've not only set a timeline, not only reviewed what you're going to do, but you've also got the customer buy-in. Your customer might come back to you and say, "You know what, I don't have 25 minutes, I've got 15 because I got to go meet so-and-so for lunch." Or they might say, "Yeah, we've got tons of time. I know you said we were going to go over the equipment, but I was online last night and I noticed that there's another color machine that I'd like to see, so can we see that today too?" You never know. So you want to check in with the customer. And at the end of it all, like I said, you want to get their buy-in. So if you say, if we've covered everything as per my agenda today, is there any reason why we can't move forward? Or you may have a different way that you'd like to close, but closing is critical. So make sure that you're asking for the close at the beginning when you're reviewing the agenda. Next thing we're going to do, once we've gone through the agenda, we're going to talk with the customer before we even touch the machine about objectives, about expectations, and once again, their commitment. So when we're talking about objectives, we're going to say, we're going to talk about maybe when the last time you met with them, they might have said, "You know what, our color is poor quality currently. We're really dissatisfied because we have a lot of customer-facing printing that's going out." Okay, that's one of their objectives, is to improve color. They might say that they're having trouble tracking who's printing what, and they're printing way too much color for way too much money. Okay, we want to cover tracking. So we talked about that before, Mr. Customer. So we talked about color quality and print tracking. So if we can show you that today, is there anything else that we need to address? And the customer might say, "Nope, that's everything. Those are the big ones we want to see. We want to make sure it works. We want to make sure it's user-friendly," or whatever. So you're going to make sure that you've addressed their objectives, what you want to cover off today, what they want to cover off. And then of course you're going to say, okay, great, so if we address those couple of objectives, as you said, those were the big issues, you said there's no other issues, then we're still okay to move forward? Okay, great. So always checking in, always checking in. If you're asking too much, you're probably doing it right. All right, so once you've done that, we've talked about the current state and the challenges. The next thing you want to do, of course, is make sure that there's no changes, as we mentioned, and then you want to talk about Ricoh. Now, very, very rarely is it appropriate in the sales cycle to talk about us and our company. We want to always make it about the customer. So when you are talking about Ricoh, I want you to make sure that the things you are saying about Ricoh are going to be relevant to your customer. If your customer is extremely concerned about environment, then let's talk about the Ricoh value proposition and the environmental policies that we have, our no waste to landfill policies, things like that, our recycling program. But if your customer doesn't care about environment, don't waste their time and don't lecture them on it, because you're going to lose their attention. You want to keep this going, you want to keep it moving, and you want to keep them interested. So once you've gone through the why Ricoh piece, so a little bit of the value proposition, maybe our elevator pitch a little bit, say, you know, I know that this is the first time you come to see Ricoh equipment, Mr. Customer, but the reason we wanted to have you in is because we understand that a lot of people see Ricoh as just a box manufacturer. And while we do have a great history of that, we've been doing it for many, many decades, we're at the point now where our goal is to take your business and make it work for you. So here's how I'm going to show you how we do that today. Okay, so you're going to take what Ricoh's doing, you're going to make it relevant to the customer. You're going to say, you know, these are the challenges that you have, this is how Ricoh addresses them. Okay, you might want to talk about some of our service aspects, things like that, but keep it brief and keep it relevant to the customer. I wouldn't go past maybe 3 or 4 Ricoh points before going, okay, we're done talking about Ricoh, let's move on back to the customer here. Okay, next thing we're going to do is our model overview. And you're also going to want to make sure that while you're doing the model overview, you are again relating it back to your customer. So I always like to tell people that we're going to go through a clockwise motion. We're always going to start here at the top with our scanning. We're going to show some of the features, what they're capable of doing. We're going to talk about the paper capacity on top, what that's going to do, talking about double-sided scanning, things like that. Okay, you can talk about the quality, but you want to keep it brief. So we start up here, we're going to go clockwise. We'll talk about the bypass here, and then we'll go down to the paper capacity. So depending on what machine you're talking about, you're going to definitely review that. You're going to say, hey, this is the one that we've proposed for you. This is how it's configured. It might have 2 trays. It might have an extra paper feed. Depends what your customer needs. So again, we're going clockwise. We're starting at the top, going through the bypass, we're going to the paper capacity at the bottom, and then we're going to go through the output here. That's where we're going to talk about finishing capabilities. So depending again on the model that you're proposing, you're going to get to your finishing, and then we'll talk a little bit about the toners, why they're relevant, how pulling them out places the reorder, that sort of thing, talking about the quality of the toner, talking about too the color touch points within a machine. So you want to make sure the customers understand how simple it is to use this machine, because a lot of our competitors are going to have pieces within the machine that are very confusing. We want to make sure that we are not, because a confused mind says no. Okay, so make sure that when you are going through the equipment, you talk about what the relevance is and why certain colors mean that customers can help, you know, undo jams, things like that in there. And then of course, show them the screen. The best part about live demos is when things go wrong, because you can use that to show them how simple it is. So imagine if I had a jam right now while I'm taking them through the equipment, and I go, hey, you know what, take a look at how easy it is to fix this. I couldn't have timed it better myself. And then they're like, oh, look at how smooth you are. Okay, so that's what we're doing there. So once you've gone through all the equipment details, and like I said, it really shouldn't take very long at all. You don't want to bore them with the speeds and feeds. If you're working with someone who is very concerned about the specifications, then by all means, take them through that. But again, we're making it about the customer. So as you've gone through this, you've gone through all the features, you've gone clockwise, you end up at the touch screen. You want to make sure that that's all ready to go, that it's simple, that it looks good. Show them some of the things about the Ricoh smart screen that are, smart panel that are going to keep them interested, but don't overdo it with the features, because you are going to lose them. Everybody knows that a multifunction printer is able to do multifunction things, so you don't need to show them, this is how we fax, this is how we copy. You just show them a little bit, and then what you really want to focus on with them is some actual jobs. So let's say, for example, that you have a customer that is concerned about color quality. So you've proposed a color machine and they're concerned about print tracking. Well, the 2 things you want prepared on this machine before your customer gets there is a print job or 2, a copy job or 2, and then of course show them how they can see print tracking on the panel or on the user interface at the computer. Okay, so that's what we want to do. As you're going through the machine though, you're going to be checking in with your customer. So if you are doing a print quality job here to show them that the color quality is high, you're going to print it out, you're going to grab that document, and you're going to go to the customer and you're going to say, take a look at that. Do you see the quality there? Yes, we see the quality, it looks great. Okay, do you feel like that addresses your needs, Mr. Customer, in terms of that color quality you were looking for? Absolutely it does. Okay, excellent. So I've got you saying that you like this. Yes, I love it. How do you see that affecting your business, Mr. Customer? Wow, you know, it's really going to improve the way you send things out to our customers. I think they're going to like it. Okay, great. Well, let's take a look at the print tracking then. I'm going to show them how the print tracking works. Okay, Mr. Customer, do you see how that's going to be a little bit more accurate with what you guys are doing? And we'll go over to the computer and I'll show you the spreadsheet. Okay, excellent. So you see how you can be tracking that back? Perfect. How is that going to change the way you guys are doing business? Well, it's going to change it because now you don't have to spend 6 hours trying to figure out who printed what and chasing down so-and-so. Okay, perfect, Mr. Customer. I'm so glad to hear it. Once you've gone through the entire machine, once you've gone through some of the job shops or print jobs, as I might call them, you want to say to the customer, okay, so you said we were able to get you that print quality you wanted, and you saw that we could do that print tracking the way you wanted. Was there anything else you wanted to see on the hardware itself? If they say no, you say great. Okay, so you said that if we address those that you'd be happy to move forward, and they'll say yeah. Okay, well I just want to show you one other thing, just a piece on the other software that we might offer, and you might want to show them AutoStore, you might want to show them you know, e-copy, something like that. You always want to add in the software piece because that's really where our company is going, and your customer should know that by now. But for the most part, you just want to circle it back to the customer and say, okay, you know, I've shown you all the hardware, I showed you some neat software that, you know, is a down the road decision perhaps, or maybe that's a today thing. You let me know if we need to discuss that. But in the meantime, is there anything else that I haven't covered or that you'd like to see? No? Okay, great. So you said if we manage to take care of this, take care of this, and take care of this, that you would be thinking about moving forward with us and Ricoh today. Is there anything else that you'd like me to take a look at before we go ahead with the paperwork? Often they'll say, no, let's go ahead, or they'll say, you know, I need to go and talk to so-and-so, or whatever. But you always want to be closing. So every time you perform a task, close. Every time you address a feature, I want you to tie it back to the advantage, which is also tied back to the value. So if your feature is, we've got great color printing, and the advantage is that they're going to improve their print quality from previous. The value to the customer, you've got them to say it. They're the ones saying, well, now my customer's going to be really impressed with what we send to them. They're just going to think we're more professional. Okay, that's our feature, our advantage, and our value. So make sure you're doing that all the way through your demo. Make sure you're closing all the way through your demo. And once you've gone through the entire machine in a couple tasks with your customer, you're going to say, okay, is there any reason we can't move ahead with the paperwork I prepared today? And you go ahead and close, you get that signed, and you get them their equipment as quickly as possible. So I hope you have enjoyed this quick review. It applies to any kind of equipment that you're going to be using within the Ricoh demo room. So whether that's black and white, whether it's color, at the end of the day, if you get through a demo without even hardly touching the equipment, you've probably done it right. So I hope this helps. I hope you're ready to show us your skills here in the demo department, and I'm looking forward to seeing how you apply it to your customer scenarios and doing great. Thanks, guys.